Good morning, everyone.
Good morning. Good morning.
All right, so we are in week 3 of this 4-part series on Ecclesiastes. And if you have your Bibles and you want to turn there, which I know all the students have their Bibles because they brought them this morning for Student Life Group. So you can go to Ecclesiastes. We're going to be, the bulk of it, where we're going to be finishing up is going to be in Ecclesiastes 9. So if you want, you can turn there. We're going to take a little while to get there. We're going to look at some other passages on the way there. But ultimately, we're going to spend some time just going through Ecclesiastes 9. And so if you'd like to take notes in your Bible, you can do that. I love to write in my Bible. If you use the pads that we have out there that you got, those note ones, you can keep track there as well to write down things. And then also, just real quick, so in a couple of weeks, we have a new series starting, and it's called How to Break into Freedom. And just like the last one that we did, where it was raising great kids in a crazy world, and it was very practical steps on like what are those foundations and things that we want to instill in our kids so that when they grow up, they become great adults. And then we found that sometimes we need to work on those things as well. But this one is going to be also very practical in terms of like how do we just start to break into freedom? Because oftentimes we might feel stuck, and it could be with things like habits or addictions, but it might be like a negative mindset. It might be something in how we view food. It might be feeling stuck at work or in life, whatever it is. And so we're going to talk about like how do we break into freedom. And when we plan out these messages and these series, we hit different genres. This is obviously a book of the Bible, right? We looked at Hebrews not long ago as well, and so that would be under, studying the Bible. Raising great kids in a crazy world, that was more just like overall practical. We've done things on theology, right, where we just looked at sin. So the branch of theology we just called hamartiology, the study of sin, and so we looked at that. We've done Christology, the study of Christ. This one, the one coming up, How to Break into Freedom, really that's going to be on, it's called soteriology, salvation, okay? But we're going to look at, so how come we can follow Jesus, have given him our life, but still feel stuck in life? And often we're going to find that because and that we wrestle with, right? And so that's what we're going to be looking at is how do we walk and how do we break into freedom. But we're in Ecclesiastes this week to give you a recap of where we've been so far. Again, Ecclesiastes is wisdom literature, which means it seeks to be very practical in how it presents itself and what they're trying to teach us, right? And so the author or the teacher has written that he's tried so many things to find fulfillment in life. And he highlights 4 or 5 of the big ones that he's searched out, he's spent time with, and he's chased after. And he presents his arguments on why chasing after them as the end-all, be-all in life just doesn't work. And so what he discovers, and what he points out, is that wisdom doesn't work. Wealth, material stuff doesn't work. Pleasure doesn't work. Even work doesn't work. And so anything that we kind of chase after that thinks it's going to fill a void in ourselves and in our life, he's like that just doesn't work. And so that was kind of week 1. And last week we also, Pastor Brad looked at how there are seasons to life as well. And so sometimes as you're going through life, man, you'll hit a rough patch, you'll hit a hard spot, and it's like, well, if I'm following God, how come I'm in this situation? How come I'm in this season of life? And Ecclesiastes deals with that. He's like, there are times where you have joy in life. There are also times where it's just not fun at all, and it feels like everything is falling apart. And there's an up and down to life, which means the emotions that you carry with that, because you are human and God made you with emotions, they're okay to have. Okay? And so just like it's okay to feel joy and happiness, sometimes it is okay to feel sad and to mourn. Sometimes it's okay to be frustrated, right? It's how we deal with that frustration and what we do in the midst of that anger, which we have to watch out with. But there are going to be ups and downs, and everything has a season, and you'll have great parts and you'll have rough parts in life, and that's okay because that's life. One day we'll be to a place which is much better, right? But for right now, with where we are, that's life. And so we feel emotions, and we're human. It's okay to feel sadness just as it's okay to feel joy. But as we look at Ecclesiastes, there's a danger when we come to this book that we have to be careful of sometimes in terms of how we view it. Because what word is Ecclesiastes probably most popularly known for? If you had to think about it. Meaningless, right? Or vanity, depending on your translation, because it is so catchy and it's such an amazing sentence or verse, right? Like it just, you hear it one time and you're like, I agree with that, and you just remember it, right? That, meaningless, everything is meaningless, or vanity, everything is vanity. And so it's so easy to remember that memorable verse because it's so memorable, so catchy, but it's kind of a fatalistic view that everything is meaningless. And the author isn't saying that everything is meaningless just outright. Right? We have to put it in the context of what he is saying. And so that's where today comes in. Today takes the first part of the book and what the author has taught us, and then he puts it in the context of how we should approach it. And so to set it up, let's do it like this. Oftentimes at work, I will ask people when we start our session, I'm just like, hey, how's your week going? Like, what do you have going on this week? And they'll think about it, and they'll go, and you can see the life drain from their eyes. And we haven't even started the workout yet. Because so many people feel weighed down in life, and they feel weighed down by work and weighed down by expectations to be the perfect person and the perfect spouse or the perfect child, the perfect student. And life can constantly feel like a series of metrics that we're trying to hit. Spend enough time with my kids, do well enough at work, make so much money, be able to replace the car, be able to replace the roof, whatever it is. And we feel like we're trying to chase all these metrics, and so our schedule is overloaded with all of these things. And you know this because you feel stressed out, and you feel tired, and you feel exhausted. And you still wonder if you're doing enough. Like you can lay down at night having checked off the list of everything you had to do that day, and you don't feel relaxed because you're thinking about tomorrow and the phone calls you have to make and what you have to get done. And you wake up feeling tired. And so the goal today is to lift that burden, even if it's just for a couple hours every so often, to give you the permission slip to actually enjoy life, which means you get to say no to some things, which I know is very hard for some, but it's also very empowering, right? And it also gives you the freedom to say yes to other things that you might really like. And so my hope today is that you walk out with a permission slip to take time to enjoy life so you can feel renewed and refreshed. And that's for adults, but that's also for students as well, because I know most of you feel tired and exhausted, because I'm sure your parents don't put any pressure on you, and teachers don't put any pressure on you, and coaches don't put any pressure on you. Right? We have so many, everyone just feels tired and exhausted because we feel like we're chasing after metrics. And so let me start with this question for all of us, which is, what would a good day or even a refreshing hour or two look like for you? Like, where's that time where it just feels like you're being recharged? And then let's follow that up with, when's the last time that you actually felt that way? Some time where you just enjoyed life, rather than chasing after a list or chasing after a schedule, because there are times for that, and they are important. And I know some of you like lists, and some of you like to check off things, and that's okay. But when's the last time we also just relaxed and took a deep breath? And so it's in that context of enjoyment that the author, the teacher, is going to circle back around to what he had talked about. Because before, the teacher had said, if you're chasing after wisdom or career or wealth or pleasure, you're going to find yourselves empty. It's never going to fill the void that you're trying to fill it with. when those are the goals or when they have quietly become your gods, they don't fulfill you. And it doesn't take long to find many celebrities that will say the same thing, that they thought it would fill the void, but they find that the wealth, the pleasure, the work doesn't actually help. In other words, it's meaningless. And so the voids that we will have are still there. But having said that, in the right understanding, in the right context, they're not actually bad to have. Wisdom and wealth and work and pleasure, as long as we don't get out of whack. And so the teacher comes back to the list throughout the book. And he says things like, chasing after knowledge or wisdom, it's not going to fulfill you. But, question, would you rather be wise or foolish? Wise, right? Most of us. And so, value wisdom. He's like, it's okay to value wisdom. It's okay to ask questions and to grow in knowledge, but because you want to, not because you're obsessed with being the smartest person in the room or you want others to think so highly of you. He's like, don't just chase after it to add more letters after your name. Right? There's a difference in reading leadership books because you enjoy the subject and you want to grow as a person or be a better leader than reading them because that's how you get your identity, is how other people say that you're such a great leader. Right? There's a difference there. And so if you're reading, let's say again, leadership books, just because that's your identity, well, what happens when you're in the group that gets laid off at work? Or you don't get promoted? Or your startup doesn't do so hot? Right? It was all meaningless. But if it's for enjoyment and growth, right, you can take that anywhere. And so in 7:11 through 12, he says, wisdom, like an inheritance, is a good thing and benefits those who see the sun. Wisdom is a shelter, as money is a shelter, but the advantage of knowledge is this: wisdom preserves those who have it. And so you can have all the money in the world, but if you're foolish, it's going to be gone pretty quick. Whereas wisdom, you don't even need a lot, right? And it can be a shelter for you. In Ecclesiastes 8, it says, words from the mouth of the wise are gracious, but fools are consumed by their own lips. And we all know people who have gotten themselves into trouble, right? At the beginning, their words are folly. At the end, they are wicked madness. And fools multiply words. Fools just love to speak. No one knows what is coming. Who can tell someone else what will happen after them? The toil of fools wearies them. They do not even know the way to town. And so it's better to be wise. It's better to ask questions. It's better to grow. It's better to have wisdom. So it's okay to do that. It's okay to read books. It's okay to listen to podcasts, whatever you want to do. Like, it's okay to do that, just as long as you're not getting your identity from how smart you are and how wise you are. And so if you like to do that, do it. And then he goes on that money is the same. He's like, it's better to have it than to not. Right? It's a danger when my self-worth is based on my financial worth, or what I wear, or what I drive, or the newest phone that I have, right? When your identity comes from that, then it's an issue. But we'd all probably agree, given the choice between, having no money or having some in savings where you can handle things like a car breaking down or outages or plumbing mishaps, right? You probably want a little bit in the bank. And so in Ecclesiastes, it says, ship your grain across the sea. After many days, you will receive a return. Invest in 7 ventures, yes, in 8. Because you don't know what disaster may come upon the land. Right? And so if you want to invest it, if you want to grow wealth, that's okay. That's if you like doing it. And some people love doing that. Right? It just clicks for them. Right? And that's your thing. Great, right? But it's different when it becomes your God. But if that's what you enjoy, and we all know people that, they're very good with money and growing it and be generous with it and help others with it as well. I mean, that can be a very powerful thing. So if you don't get your identity from it, if it's not otherwise, if you do get your identity from it, it's just meaningless because you're never going to have enough. How about work? Work is good, right? Well, some of you are on the fence about it. But overall, we would say work is good, right? It gives us purpose. When you don't have a job, oftentimes it feels like you're just existing, right? You don't really feel like you have a purpose. And so work is good. It provides an income. It gives a sense of purpose to us. In Ecclesiastes 10:18, it says, through laziness, the rafters sag. Because of idle hands, the house leaks. Right? Laziness, if we were to say everything is meaningless, he says work is meaningless, so therefore I'm not going to work. I'm going to retire at the age of 18, as soon as you get out of school, right? That's called laziness. And laziness lets problems go, and the result is destruction. So it's better to work. Again, we just have to be careful that we don't get our identity from our work, which is very easy to do. But he's like, if you enjoy work, then do it. Pastor Brad likes to make things with his hands, right? That's good work. If you like to work on cars, that's good work. I remember when I was in college, I used to do work at a factory, and I did the lawn and the outdoor stuff, plants. It was hot, even in Wisconsin, not as hot as here. It was filled with mosquitoes as well. But I enjoyed that. I liked being outside. I liked being with other people, just working. That was fun. And so then I would do that at home with my mom's house as well. And so if you like to work, then work. Just be careful that you don't start to sacrifice your family for work. And sometimes we're so afraid of work, because I'll talk to people in our training sessions too, and so many people are thinking about switching careers and they're afraid to. And he addresses kind of that uncertainty as well in Ecclesiastes 11. He says, if clouds are full of water, they pour rain on the earth. Whether a tree falls to the south or to the north, in the place where it falls, there it will lie. Whoever watches the wind will not plant. Whoever looks at the clouds will not reap. In other words, you can always find reasons not to do something. As you do not know the path of the wind or how the body is formed in a mother's womb, so you cannot understand the work of God, the maker of all things. He comes back to work. Sow your seed in the morning, and at evening let your hands not be idle. For you do not know which will succeed, whether this or that, or whether both will do equally well. So it's like, go ahead and work. And don't wait for the perfect time to do something, because it's never going to come. You'll always find reasons not to. Something's going to be too scary, or it's just going to be the right time in life. He's like just go ahead. Because again, the author, he wants us to be very practical. He doesn't want us to think about it and to dwell on it too long and not move. He wants us to be active and be like, oh, okay, it's okay. I can move forward. And so essentially what the teacher in Ecclesiastes has done to say is that all the major things that people make into gods in their lives, if they do that, they're going to find them to be meaningless. But put in the right perspective and to enjoy the life that they're living on earth, these things can be of immense benefit. Wisdom can be of benefit. Wealth can be of benefit. Work can be of benefit. Growing in your career, advancement, Ted talked about that previously, can be of benefit. And so enjoy life. And if you enjoy work or wealth, go ahead and do it. But sometimes it's just so hard to feel like we have the freedom to enjoy life, because we get so consumed about the pressure of today and tomorrow and this week. And that pressure becomes everything, to the point where we can't enjoy life. And then it carries over, so we put pressure on our kids so that they get in the right colleges or get on the right teams or get in the right shows or band or choir, the right job in life. And we want our kids to succeed, but we don't want to put so much pressure on them that they also lose the ability to enjoy today. And so it's very easy for us as loving parents or grandparents or favorite aunts and uncles to put so much pressure on students and kids that we take the fun out of school for them, or the fun out of a sport, or the fun out of an extracurricular activity for them. But it also starts with us being able to enjoy life and then model it for them. And so how can you enjoy life? What do you like to do? I love to read books. Maybe you hate books. That's okay. Do what you like. A couple weeks ago on a Saturday, I had been working during the day. Angie had taken Aaron to a practice in the morning, and then she spent the morning at home. And so when I came home, I came back, and she had been at home all day, and she wanted to do something outside. And so she's like, do you want to go do something outside? And I'm like, not really, because I'm tired. And so she took the kids, and they went for a walk around a lake. And I worked out, and I read, and I got ready for some messages coming up in church. And for her, that was relaxing. She got to go outside, she got to walk, she got to spend time with the kids. And for me, that was the most relaxing few hours I've had in a number of months. For the first time, I was just like, oh, this feels different. I just felt like I could breathe for a second because I came back to reading, which I like to do. And I came back to just working on some messages, which I like to do. And so it was just very, and I was kind of like, oh yeah, this is what life should feel like. Not all the time, because again, the author would say there's ups and there's downs, and there's times to be busy, and there's times to pull it back a little bit. But it was enjoyable. And it makes work and everything else so much easier when we enjoy when we do it. And so ultimately the teacher here is telling you and me, like, hey, enjoy your life. Work, be wise, accumulate money, and it's okay to advance, but don't let those things be your gods. Don't get your identity from them. Otherwise, you're going to find that it's just vanity, and they're meaningless. Use them rightly, and you'll find that they enhance your life and can bring you enjoyment. And this brings us to the passage we're going to be ending on, Ecclesiastes 9, 1 through 12. And so how he looks at this is in this first section, he's basically going to say, I'm going to give you a heads up of where we're going. He's going to say, we all die. And so he starts. So I reflected on all of this and concluded that the righteous and the wise and what they do are in God's hands. So no matter how righteous, how wise you are, ultimately you're still in God's hands and you're still on his timetable. But no one knows whether love or hate awaits them. All share a common destiny, the righteous and the wicked, the good and the bad, the clean and the unclean. Those who offer sacrifices, those who do not. As it is with the good, so with the sinful. As it is with those who take oaths, so with those who are afraid to take them. In other words, the godly, the ungodly, we all have the same destinies. Like ultimately, we're all going to die. And this is the evil that happens in everything that happens under the sun. The same destiny overtakes all. The hearts of people, moreover, are full of evil, and there is madness in their hearts while they live, and afterward they join the dead. Anyone who is among the living has hope. Even a live dog is better off than a dead lion. And again, dogs weren't like the dogs we think of today, where I think of Bella, if you know Bella. And she's lovely, and she's the best dog, and she comes over, and she cuddles with me. My family doesn't cuddle with me. Bella cuddles with me. So I take her and watch her as much as I can. And so when I think of a dog, I think of dogs that I love and like. But again, ancient Near East, dogs were not dogs. And so even a live dog is better off than a dead lion. For the living know that they will die, but the dead know nothing. So it's still better to be alive than dead. They have no further reward, and even their name is forgotten. Their love, their hate, and their jealousy have long since vanished. Never again will they have a part in anything that happens under the sun. And so everyone's going to end up in the same place, right? Everyone's going to end up in the ground. And it doesn't matter if you have lots of money or no money. It doesn't matter how wise you are, if you're foolish. It doesn't matter if you've lived in the most righteous life ever or if you've committed so many felonies. It's ridiculous. We all end up in the same place. And so the author's like, this life is all you have. So enjoy it. Go, eat your food with gladness. Drink your wine with a joyful heart, for God has already approved what you do. Obviously, don't be sinful, right? There's got to put it in context. Always be clothed in white, and always anoint your head with oil. Enjoy life with your wife, whom you love, all the days of this meaningless life that God has given you under the sun, all your meaningless days. For this is your lot in life, and your toilsome labor under the sun. Whatever your hand finds to do, do it with all your might. For in the realm of the dead, where you are going, there is neither working, nor planning, nor knowledge, nor wisdom. Enjoy life. I have seen something else under the sun. The race is not to the swift, or the battle to the strong, nor does food come to the wise, or wealth to the brilliant, or favor to the learned. But time and chance happen to them all. In other words, life doesn't turn out how you think it will. Just because you think you're owed something or should result in something doesn't mean that you're going to get it. And that's why you might look at people that you went to school with, and you're like, how did they get there? They weren't that smart. Right? It's because life isn't fair. And just because we're hoping that something's going to work out doesn't mean that it will. And life will take many different turns for different people. And if we think that we're owed something or should get the automatic result, we're going to be very disappointed, and we're going to be very frustrated, very angry. The author says that's not how life works. And so just because you might put in a ton of hours at work doesn't mean your career is going to advance the way that you think it will. So again, enjoy the ride. Moreover, no one knows when their hour will come. As fish are caught in a cruel net, or birds are taken in a snare, so people are trapped by evil times that fall unexpectedly upon them. So you don't know when your time is up. So enjoy this life today. And it might mean that you find ways to enjoy your work. It might mean that maybe you had so many things planned for this afternoon, and instead you decide to watch football because for you, that's your breathing time. Maybe you get more upset watching football, so maybe you shouldn't. Meaningless. I was so excited yesterday because I'm like, it's the first time that I can watch Colorado play. And I don't even like college football, but I wanted to watch Dion's team. It's meaningless. And by the end of it, I'm like, oh man, they scored? By the end of it, I was just like, all right, Oregon. I just want to see you shut them out. And that was the first time I watched college football, but for me, that actually was a little bit where it's like, this is kind of nice just to enjoy it. And then we have that famous passage. There is something else meaningless that occurs on earth. This is in 8:14 through 15. There is something else meaningless that occurs on earth. The righteous who get what the wicked deserve, and the wicked who get what the righteous deserve. And that's hard. This too, I say, is meaningless. So I commend the enjoyment of life, because there is nothing better for a person under the sun than to eat and drink and be glad. Your translation might say be merry. Your translation might say be joyful. Then joy will accompany them in their toil all the days of their life. God has given them under the sun. He says there's nothing better for a person under the sun. Again, going back to week 1, under heaven, God's realm, right? Under earth, that's where we are. So there's nothing better for a person under the sun, which is where we are, than to eat and drink and be glad, be merry, be joyful. So that joy can accompany you. So what's your eat and drink and be merry / joyful? What is that for you? Have you done that recently? Maybe today is your permission slip to actually go and do it. This last weekend ago, Aaron had games in Atlanta, so I took him out there, and I love those weekends with him, whether it's just him or it's our whole family, because those are some of my favorite times, because although we don't get a lot of sleep, we're just together. And I love watching him play. I love just being with him. And so on that Thursday, I picked him up from school so we could catch our flight. And I pushed the button on the school door, and I said that I was there to pick up the boy. And they sent someone to give him a permission slip so he can get out of class, away from the work that he was doing, so he could come with me to do something that he loves. Right? When you feel weighed down and that you just need a day or maybe even just a few hours, right? Ecclesiastes is your permission slip to just get out and enjoy life, that it's okay. So come back to it and use it. Let's pray. God, as we're here this morning, sometimes we get so weighed down by schedules and metrics and pressures, and then we unknowingly put that on our kids and those around us, those at work. So help us to remember, as the teacher reminds us, that it's okay to enjoy life, that we should enjoy it with those people that you put around us, that we can take a few seconds, a few hours, we can stop, we can breathe, we can just relax, we can feel refreshed, we can feel renewed, and it's okay. Help us to not make things into our lives that are gods that shouldn't be. Help us to not get our self-worth from things like wisdom or wealth or work, but instead help us to use those in the right context, in the right perspective, to find enjoyment in life and to live for you. Because you really do want us to enjoy life. You've given us this life, you created us, and you didn't create us to be robots that work. You created us to use work, but to enjoy life. Ultimately, we'll get to enjoy it with you someday, but as we're right here under the sun, help us to remember to enjoy it here. In Jesus' name.